Well, there you are. Again, Charlie Greer Podcast. I do this every day today. So, 1980s rock and roll. Well, before we do, please like, share, and subscribe if you want to support the channel, which you do. The information's in the description for Cash App. My handle is Charlie Greer Podcast. There's also information for Zelle. You can use my email. The information's in the description. My email's there. Let's do this. So, 1980s rock and roll, awesome. Uh, I get it. We're all boxed into where when we were born, the time of, if I was born in the 20s, I'd be in the ragtime, fascinating rhythm going. Yeah, it wasn't. Uh, I was a teenager of the 80s. I was a kid of the 70s, which was pretty awesome, and a teenager of the 80s. The 80s were, I keep on saying this, but awesome. Um, and I'm a rock and roller. I love rock and roll. I love the whole, everything about it. I love the arts. I love this, that, and the other. Yeah. More. So, yeah, 1980s. Uh, I mean, I saw so many concerts in the 80s. I was actually looking through some stuff a couple weeks back, and I found the envelope that has all my ticket stubs that I saved. If they weren't even, oh, there's the ones I saved. I'm gonna have to do a podcast about that. I'll pull them out and I'll try to remember that what was going on. So, um, again, I loved rock and roll. I love like Motley Crue, Rat, Van Halen. Technically, they came out in the 70s, late 70s. Anywho's it? Wasp, Kiss, Faster Pussycat, um, on and on. Again, I like other stuff too, but that's that. I can actually have like a different colors of music on my palette. I'm not one of these people like, oh, I got it. It's like no. Um, they act like they're so open-minded when they're closed off. Um, there were times like when I was back in the day when I was in my band, you would not believe how many club owners or whatever booking this, that, no, oh, you guys don't sound like the Replacements. Well, if everybody sounded like the Replacements, which I love the Replacements. Everybody sounds like the Replacements, and you're acting all high and mighty, and you're all like boxed into, you know. So let's just start. So I wanted to go see Kiss in the 70s. My parents wouldn't take me. I remember we're living in Florida, and my parents had like newspapers or whatever, and I was kind of looking through it, didn't understand. But then I saw this ad for Kiss, and I realized like, wait a minute, that's just down the road. That's it. Huh? See, I gotta, and I threw a fit, man. I can't go. And that night, I knew what night it would be. I was smart enough to know like it's gonna be Saturday night or whatever it was. And it said the time they were going to be playing. So I mean, I literally was like in mourning that I couldn't be there. And I think that was the Dynasty tour, if I'm not mistaken, because that's the first time that I understand about advertising. Like, hey, they're advertising a show. I mean, I knew they played, but to me, I was so young, I didn't get it. I thought they were like from another planet. I didn't. Uh, so, and I saw some like in high school bands would, I saw this, that, and the other in local bands, and but my first real rock show was Kiss, and it was in St. Louis at the Keel, the old Keel Auditorium. And it was Kiss with Wasp. Wasp open, and it was on the Asylum tour, which quite honestly, I actually like that album. I don't like the Kiss Asylum album. Yeah, I wish I could have saw them on a different, whatever. I'm boxed into my time, what you said. I think I was 15, 14. Anyway, went and saw Kiss. I think this was in January or February of 86, maybe. So we drove to St. Louis, and it was me, my sister, some friends. We all packed into one of my friend's cars. He had his driver's license in the winter. I remember it was wintertime. And it was my first like arena show. Wasp comes on, just blew my mind. They had like these heads. Each of them had a head that was like spinning, like and I loved it. I mean, I couldn't believe how loud it was, and this and that. And then during like part of the show, the singer Blackie Lawless, like he had these drumsticks with these posters wrapped around it, like with rubber bands, and he was slinging them out there. When it came to our side of because we weren't that far from the stage, I reached up again. I'm 6'2", so I've been 6'2" since I was like 15. Reached up, got it, pulled it down, and then literally had to wrestle with like adult men, like fans, and they were ripping it down. I literally fell down. I was like, so the poster was ruined. They tore off. I mean, I still hung it up, and it was a door poster of like Blackie Lawless, like, all ripped and torn. I had to pay, there was holes in it, and I had a drumstick, like a signed drumstick from whatever his name was. Kiss came on, blew my mind. I still have some shitty pictures that I took that night with like an analog camera, one of these. Anyway, killer show. I mean, I was like, even sparked more because by then I was already playing guitar. I think I had 2 guitars by then. I had a Gorilla amp. These old shitty, they were called Gorilla, shitty amps. Hey, whatever. And I had a distortion pedal, a DOD, like it was red. It was like ultra distortion or something like that. I was a rocker. I was ready to, and so from there, I think my next concert, I'm just going to go through the concert. I don't really know like in a linear fashion what, but I saw one of the best shows I've ever seen, and I've seen a bunch, and I've played gigs, and I've opened for bands, and but this was a great one. It was Rat and Poison. Believe it or not, I like Poison. That first album, it's only that first album I like. So it was Rat on the Dancing Undercover tour, which I saw 3 times. So this first, it was I think it was the first, but it was Rat and Poison. And let me just tell you, man, you want to go to a Poison show. I mean, there's so many girls, and it was so much fun. See, there's a time and place for everything, like technical, prog rock, whatever. You're a teenager, and all these hormones running through your vein. You just need to, and it was awesome. Poison, again, I love Poison. I love that. That first album is awesome. I know I'm going to say awesome a lot. So Poison came out, and it was the first tour, that first album. Loved it. I knew all this. I had the cassettes. So I knew all the songs, and I loved the whole, and just the vibe, the fun. Because I've been around like serious musicians in certain scenes or whatever, and these people on these scenes are like, "Well, I don't trust anybody that's happy." I don't like people like that. They're usually weak-minded people, unhappy, on meds, taking some, that is a geeky, I don't trust people that are happy. Well, you're the problem with the world, dude. And I'd let them know. I'd go into them, just, that's what I'm saying. You got to live your life. If somebody's coming at you, so anyway, Rat and Poison. Poison played. There's like a little intermission. They bring up the lights for about 15, 20 minutes, and Rat comes on. It was amazing. Their stage was huge, and the lights moving, and the drummer, the beer came down from the lights, and he cracked a beer, And then they were like, "Hey," this stuff started coming out. Like they're moving people around, and they had these cranes with these cameras. They're like, "Hey, we're going to shoot a video for Slip of the Lip." Now this was in Nashville, at the I think it's called the Municipal Auditorium. That's where it was at. And they go, bear with us, but we're going to have to play this song like 6 times. Which Slip of the Lip is a pretty good song, okay. And so they shot that video that night in Nashville. I was there. It was amazing. Again, I'm going to say amazing and awesome and all that. Apologize in advance that wicked sweet. I mean, good times. And then later on, we ended up with girls. It's just, again, I was a teenager. This is, times of my life. So I'll just stick on the Rat. So that tour, Dancing Undercover, I love that album. So the next time I saw it, they came through town again, and I saw them or we might have we would travel. We would go to, because I moved to Tennessee by then, we'd go to, or back to Tennessee, I should say. We'd go to Chattanooga, we'd go to Knoxville, wherever we had. So then the next time I saw Rat was Queensryche opening for them. Now look, I know how good Queensryche are, like technically, but when you're in the 80s and you're wanting to have fun and They weren't bad. It's just one of the worst concerts I've ever seen. It was just there wasn't any I mean, yeah, they were whatever, but the vibe, like people were just like, I mean, we went and got hot dogs and whatever, we smoked cigarettes and just didn't want to. And it even affected the rat. Rat wasn't even on point. Um, then that same tour, I saw Bon Jovi open for Rat. Because that's what I did back every weekend. I was going to concerts, and again, I could have drove to. Uh, so Bon Jovi was really good. Um, I didn't like Bon Jovi. You know what I mean? What? I got to admit, they were. I thought better than Queensryche. I mean, maybe just because of the vibe, just because people going crazy and the girls and topless and woo, and it's crazy. Um, and then sometimes, and Rat was great again, back on the, it seemed like Queensryche kind of brung him down or the vibe. I don't know. But then sometimes we would just go because let's just get out of town. We got tickets were usually general admission for like anywhere from $11 to $14. My dad or my grandparents would give me the money and be careful, Charles David, and I'd go. So I remember one time certain time we just like, let's go to the concert. We're not really, it was Georgia Satellites opening for 38 Special. And we're like, man, let's just go. Georgia Satellites were, I can't tell you how good they were. I knew who they were. Dude, live. I couldn't believe I was looking. Is it, huh? Great band. I'm a fan to this day. 38 Special were good. They had a big stage show, and it was just fun. See, I wanted to have fun. I didn't want to like wallow in my own misery, and don't want to think about my childhood or the past. Just have fun. And then I saw David Lee Roth, the solo David Lee Roth with Poison opening up for him. Again, great show. David Lee Roth like surfed over the crowd with his big surfboard with like, hung up by metal, whatever it was. Then I saw it again. I just kept going back and traveling, and we'd go everywhere. And then Cinderella opened for David Lee Roth. That was a great show. Great band. I love David Lee Roth. He's one of the ultimate, like, woo! I love that. Because to me, rock and roll entertainment is to disappear for a bit, lose your mind for a couple hours, not have to worry about you know what I mean? Just go have fun. Of course, I was underage, and we just, you're just experiencing things in life. Motley Crue. So Girls tour. Well, even though we were disappointed in that album, I mean, it was good, but we were, what happened to Motley Crue? So they were playing in Knoxville first. We followed Motley Crue, so it was in Knoxville first. We and the ticket said LA Guns. I still think I have the ticket. So we're like, LA Guns, we never heard of. I'm from a hillbilly town, 2,000 people, dry county. There wasn't any music stores or, so you just got what you got. And so it was Guns N' Roses that opened for Motley Crue in Knoxville. Never heard of Guns N' Roses. Blown away. Like, who is this? This is the future. Like, this is, again, you're seeing all these concerts and going to see even local bands and hanging out and jamming. Well, who's, what it was great. And the Motley Crue show, again, was awesome. They don't sound like their albums. They are good, but that was shocking to me. That's the first time I was like, what? They don't sound like, but they were, loud and great times. Then they came to Nashville with Whitesnake. See, I'm not a Whitesnake fan. I mean, it just isn't my thing. Not that they're bad. It's just they weren't Guns N' Roses, and the vibe was different too. It was like, I don't know. Motley Crue again blew them off the stage. Motley Crue was a thing, And I left my seat. I had general admission. I literally went down. I was at the corner, literally hanging off the rafter, like right where Nikki Six was. And I saw, so I kind of saw the side of the show. Um, great. Then we we were into Dokken. George Lynch. To this day, George Lynch, the guitarist of Dokken, is one of my favorite guitarists of all time. I love George Lynch. Anything he does, I don't care. I like it. I like his style. Well, they were, we had their albums, but they weren't headlining. They were opening, and we followed Dokken. Well, it was actually Loverboy and Dokken, believe it or not. Why they, who knows? You'd think Loverboy, but and Loverboy had a few good songs, but I wasn't, So we went to, I forgot where we went, but we saw, we would go and pay, watch Dokken, and leave. I never saw Loverboy, so maybe they were good, or I don't know. We just, we were like that. We were twice we did that, the same tour, Loverboy and Dokken. We just follow them around, and maybe we went to Knoxville too, and then we Nashville or Chattanooga. Who knows? We would follow bands. We were just like, oh, let's see. But Dokken was, man, they were again amazing, awesome. I love George Lynch, his tone and his playing style, and I got a Kramer, like he had like this sparkle red Kramer with the one pickup, one volume, Floyd Rose. My dad, you got to buy me one, and he did. And then that thing wouldn't stay in tune. You would just the trauma of trying to keep that thing to stay in tune. Later on in life, I actually took that into like in St. Louis, when I lived in St. Louis, like a guitar tech guy who was, kind of pricey. And it's like, look, man, just if you have, I don't even care what you do. I'm not using that Floyd Rose. Just try it so I could keep it in tune. I like the pickup, I like how it sounds. It's just, if you look at it, it goes out of tune. And I remember he had it for a couple of days. He came back like, dude, I did my best. I mean, maybe you could change out this Floyd, these Floyd Rose specials or whatever were known for, and it didn't, I gave up. I think I still have that guitar stored in St. Louis. Perhaps I do. We shall see. But yeah, I love Dokken. Faster Pussycat. So they opened for Alice Cooper, and I always wanted to see Alice Cooper. Loved Alice Cooper. My sister was a fan of Alice Cooper. And I was too. But so we really went to see Faster Pussycat. And I remember. The stage was huge, but it was all covered up with like black drapes, whatever. They didn't give Faster Pussycat like any stage room. I mean, it was literally like they were playing like on a strip of like 5 foot, like they couldn't, and they were complaining about it, but they looked so cool and they sounded great. Loved it. Alice Cooper. So I saw him twice that tour too. So one night he hung himself, and then the next time I saw him, he decapitated or put his head in the guillotine or whatever. A great show. Again, a theatrical. Strange thing about this tour, they had a guy named Kane Roberts, like this muscular guy. And he had like a machine gun guitar. And Kip Winger, who ended up in Winger, was the bass player on that tour. And I was like, who is this guy doing all this dancing and splits? And he needs to bring it down a notch. Like, then later on, like, oh, that's that guy that, and I'm not a Winger fan. I mean, one night a friend's father was like, hey, I got these tickets. His father was a doctor. I got these tickets to Steve Winwood. And we're like, well, we got nothing else to do. There's nothing going on. No parties in town or whatever. Let's just go to Nashville and see Steve Winwood. And they were good tickets. They're like in the front row or like the 4th row. We were right there. And the band comes on, we get down there, and we literally stayed for like a song. We're like, we can't do this. No. It just wasn't us. Listen to the mandolin rain or whatever. He was, no. We literally turned, got out and went back home. Ended up cruising the strip. And everyone's like, I thought you were going to do the Steve Winwood Cup. Yeah, we did. And it just wasn't for us. We didn't know. Again, I had hair, this long hair, black. My grandparents would let me grow my hair, and this was back in the day where like even long, especially in a small town in Tennessee, Well, people didn't like that. I wouldn't allow it at people's houses because I had long hair and they would talk bad about me, which I was a good kid. It's just that I had it all teased out. Hairspray. I learned how to, and my grandparents were really cool. Like, we don't understand it, but you can do what God bless them. They were so cool. And we would go to any concert. Who did I see? LA Guns. LA Guns. And see, a lot of these, I got to get those ticket stubs out because a lot of these are kind of, Accept open for Dio. Oh my God. Great. I didn't even like Accept, and they were all wearing like camo and stuff. They were good. Dio, he had like a fire breathing dragon and all this other stuff. The funny thing about that, I saw that twice too, that same tour. So I don't know if it's the first or second time. So we get to the arena. We had pretty good seats. We call them booners, like the drunk Southern dude. This ossified drunk, that bit comes and he's like sitting in front of us and he's raising Cane and pulled out a bottle of whiskey after he was already you couldn't believe he was alive, how drunk he was. And the security came over and took his whiskey. They actually let him stay. Like calm down. So he sat down in his chair and literally just passed out. And this before the first, before Accept even went on. So the first band went on Accept. They played. It was loud too. And he had been puking on himself. He was like 2 seats in front of us. And then, Accept plays for like 45 minutes. Lights go on for maybe 20 minutes or whatever. Change the state. Then the lights go down. Dio, amazing, loud. And this dude was passed out the whole time before even any of the bands. So when it was ready to go, we'd always kind of like hang around and, see our friends or what people, because we got to know people just from areas around in Tennessee that would just they were like our concert friends. Like, hey, we tried, this before the internet, so we tried to always sit together. And so we were just hanging around after the lights came on. And the security came up and they woke that guy up. And he threw a fit that he had missed the concert. Like he was screaming and crying, covered in his own puke, trying to rip up a chair. And then they finally had to literally carry him out. He was kicking like a baby. Like, ah! Well, that's what happens when you're a booner and you're drunk like that. You miss the show. And I forgot the second time who opened for Dio. I remember Accept opened for him that first time. And that's what we did. We would literally, you couldn't buy tickets in my town. So the closest place was McMinnville, which was, because I'm from Smithville, Tennessee. So McMinnville is about 20 minutes, half an hour. We would drive to McMinnville. There was a mall there that had like a record store and you could buy the tickets. So we'd always go there, get our tickets, come back. That's all we did. That's all every week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a weekend or every night of the week, we just go. Sometimes it wasn't just on the weekend. It might be, Then I saw another great show that I saw was Guns N' Roses opened for Aerosmith. Man, what a good show. Just like both bands, and that was in a big outdoor auditorium, I forgot what they called that in Nashville, but it had like a covered area where the seats were covered, and then like a big grassy hill. You could fit, I don't even know how many people could fit in there. A lot. And you bring a blanket. It was amazing. You could bring food and this, that, and the other. So yeah, we saw Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith. Aerosmith were again amazing, awesome. I love Aerosmith. And then there were times, again, we would just go see bands. There was this one all-day concert called One for the Sun in Nashville. So there'd be all these bands, Autograph, Steppenwolf, who knows? Just Eddie Money. I don't even know. Just, I pretty much saw them all. There were 2 that canceled that kind of broke my heart. Deep Purple. I want to see Deep Purple. And then they canceled. And I think they broke up that lineup. Deep Purple. Never got a refund. Then Iron Maiden too. Really want to see Iron Maiden. And then they canceled. I don't think I ever got a refund from that too. And it was just good times. The 80s, I'm glad that I got to live through that kind of innocent, wild, uh, you know, I was born in 71. So by 86, I was like 15. I was in a band too. We had a band, horrible cover band, but my first band was, you know, by the time I was like 17, I'd played probably dozens of gigs. I played the, Watertown Fair, and I played the VFW Hall, and everywhere, anywhere they'd let us play. And we were called Sinister. So good times. And I knew enough about band. By then, I knew enough about. And when I moved, when I was 17, I moved from Smithville, Tennessee to Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. It's like a college town, uh, a lot bigger. To me, it was like a big town, but it's a small town. But I was used to a few thousand people, and I think there's, I don't even know how many, 100,000 people there, more. College town, University of Illinois. And I went to this school. It was I went to Urbana High School, big school, and they had a talent show. And I saw these bands. There was a couple bands that were in high school, and but I had done more than them. I'd already been, they were good. I mean, matter of fact, I ended up joining one of the bands, but I was more seasoned than those guys, and I had more gear. Because that was my life. I would just, save money to buy better gear. By then, I had bigger amps, better guitars. I'd switched from I bought a hollow body. A guy talked me into it, like a Gibson copy of a hollow body, like a semi hollow, I should say. And I had a PV like mini stack, and I was ready to rock. But I ended up being the singer, because what happened was when I was in Sinister, I was the bass player. And then the singer wouldn't show up, and then he quit the band. So like, we need a singer. And they're like, before he quit, when he wasn't there, I would sing the songs. And they're like, man, you're better than him. You sing. So I ended up, then I was like, yeah, I should be a singer. I love playing guitar, and that's what happened. I became a singer in a band, and most of my bands when I was in Love Engineer, my old band, I just sang. During the gig, one song, they give me like a Les Paul, and I go out there and I do Johnny Thunders, You Can't Put Your Arm Around a Memory, like halfway through the set. Or the other guys went to the restroom or got more beer, whatever. And I'm glad I got to do that. I'm glad. I mean, granted, I should have been studying, but now I want to be a rock and roller, and that's what I was going to do. I mean, that's what I did. But the 80s were great, and I love 80s. It's not just that. I love the Cure. I love the Pixies. I loved Billy Idol. I loved the Replacements. I loved all kinds of stuff. Again, my musical palette is all over the place. I don't pigeonhole myself into one kind of genre. I love classical music. I love the blues. I love. I'm not really a rap fan. I love soul music though. I love any. The 80s were. I was lucky to experience that, and live to tell the story. I survived it. Did you too grew up in the 80s? Did you see awesome concerts? Comment below. Who'd you see? You probably did. Oh, and by the time I got seriously in my bands, came the 90s, 90, 91. My first album came out in 92, like CD. I didn't like the 90s that much. The fun was over. It was, and I felt cheated that I was like, man, I'm around all this. Where's all the good times gone, man? I mean, come on. Some of the 90s was okay, but man, I didn't dig it. I missed that whole fun, the energy, I didn't want to hear about depressing stuff. Life's already too depressing. I don't want to be reminded that, again, comment below. What do you think? Who do you see? I miss the 80s. I miss those bands. Some of them are still around. But, so yeah, please like, share, and subscribe. That's the best way you can support the channel, is just like, share, and subscribing. Telling people like, hey, this guy's amazing. Embellish. Yeah. Oh, and if you want to support the channel for reals, which you do, the info is in the description for Cash App. My handle is Charlie Greer Podcast. because I need better equipment. I've been this past week or two, I've been dealing with my computer. Yeah, it crashed on me, and finally kind of got it up running. I didn't miss a show though. I had to go. I had an episode. I've been fighting to get on here. So yeah, the Cash App is Charlie Greer Podcast, and for my Zelle, it is for my email, which is in the description. And thank everybody for watching. I do this every day. I'll be back tomorrow, ranting and raving like a madman. But I love y'all. Be blessed. Cheers.